Okay, are we live? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my all-new series, Deviant Stories. Now, if you're wondering why I'm starting off in this accent, it's because somebody wanted to hear it. So here you go. Okay, so I do a lot of accents, but anyway, welcome to the new series, Deviant Stories. As you know, I have been reading fan fiction. It's only been a few days, but ever since I started that, I've also wanted to do Deviant Stories because I realized that I definitely have the capacity to do both poetry and stories. It's just that I wanted to see how it would go over and how we all fit together. And I realized that we can fit about 2 stories per video, which is good. It's better than 1. So as long as the stories are of decent length, as in not too long, not too short, can definitely fit 2 per episode, which is great. So just to start you off, here's my journal. You can check out some of our other videos at Word of Chen. We're doing a lot of scary games, fanfiction readings, and a lot of other stuff. Heroes of the Storm and a few other games are coming back as soon as the around about the 15th, because we're taking a short break from those for personal reasons. Anyway, as you can also see, I've changed the camera angle. Somehow I think this angle is a bit better. I don't know. You guys can tell me in a comment if you want. Anyway, time to get started. So the first story we have is Marauder Wanderer by Phil Lack. Her name is Macy, female from the United States. Thanks, Mom, for the tea. Okay, so yeah, my mom just came in the room and gave me some tea. But anyway, yeah, so this person's been a deviant for 2 years. They could definitely use more watchers. Why don't you come and check them out? And apparently they watch me. Shout out to you, Macy. Alright, here is Marauder Wanderer. You ready? The rain pours down. The dry earth soaks it up. I walk alone on the deserted road. My travels have taken me far, deep into deserts, through impassable bogs, and over mountains. I long for home, but still I walk on. Through sleet and hail, through raging storms and summer days I walk on. When I left those many months ago, I had hoped to find something, a divine sign that would point to why I'm here. But the gods were silent and faceless to me. Now as I wander, I understand the words my mother said to me when I was a boy. The rainstorm rages on. The wind whips the droplets into a fury, and soaks my already damp clothing. In the town, people scurry... In the towns, people scurry inside, and the young children scream as the rain picks up. I smile and look to the dark sky. You can't change the weather. You can only live with it. When she first told me, I thought it was odd. But throughout my life, she would tell it to me under different circumstances. I hated it, and I hated her for saying it over and over. Dad would say it's because she was a moth. She thought she had a special connection to the world around us. When Mother died, I left. I couldn't be in that house without her. Dad didn't stop me either. Now I walk roads that are familiar but different. The people all look at me. They know who I was. I suppose they never thought I would come back. I sat my heavy pack down and knock on the door to my childhood home. Dad opens the door, but he doesn't say anything. We stand in silence till a woman appears beside, heavily pregnant and looking exhausted. Tani, you should be resting, Dad speaks, turning to her. She smiles at him. You'll not welcome our guest if I go rest. She looks at me and smiles. Actually, ma'am, I'm afraid I've got the wrong house. She nodded and turns, waddling back into the house. Dad turns to me and opens his mouth. I shoulder my pack and sigh. You can't change the weather. You can only live with it. He smiles, and I begin to walk away. Did you find what you were looking for? He calls from the door. Yeah, Dad, I did. Not in the way I thought, but I did. I didn't turn back, but I know he's smiling. Mother was right. If Dad wanted to live like he was, I wasn't going to stop him. After all, I love the rain, and I love the silence of the road. I'll wander the deserts and the impassable bogs, And maybe one day, depending on how the wind blows, I'll find myself a place to live again. Alright, so that was Marauder Wanderer by Tholak. Fantastic piece, please do check it out. Moving on now, we have Hunt by Archiver Delta. The name is Seven Eastwood, 19, male from the United States, deviant for 3 years, watches me apparently, and they do comics. Come and check them out. Might be pleasantly surprised. Now then, you ready? As far as I could tell, the place was abandoned, what with its plant overgrowth and rusted-shut windows. An out-of-place breeze blew across me as I opened the porch of the Victorian townhouse, and the sting of the regular winter cold assisted in the bitter feeling. A dashing of snow was cast across the wooden floor, like it had been sprayed on. The wood of the patio creaked under pressure. It was clearly beginning to rot from weather, and could snap at any moment. I raised a hand to knock, out of habit, but after realizing I didn't care who resided here, if at all, I slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. It felt oddly warm, like there was a space heater. Sure enough, off to my left was a space heater, in fully functioning condition. That raised a question. The only buildings nearby were a field for crops, useless in winter, and a water wheel, also rendered meaningless by the cold. Who could be out here and survive night after night? Who would bother? I heard footsteps echoing down the stairwell ahead. I wanted to hide, but I remained still. If another human existed in this forsaken land, I might stand a chance. He held a revolver in his hand, his finger twitching against the trigger guard. That didn't bode well. I raised my hand slowly, to show that I meant no harm. The moment was long and tense before he finally holstered the weapon and approached, asking what I was doing in the countryside. I let out a few points, but I explained I was a traveller. I left out a few points, but I explained I was a traveller of sorts, and got caught in the impending storm. He simply blinked and gave his name like we were friends. I was reluctant to say mine in return. Who knows how this man would react? Nevertheless, with a nod, he led me upstairs, showing me the house. It turned out he owned the entire property, field and all. It ran with the family, according to him. He never wanted to keep the place, but felt he had an obligation, just to keep his sanity. Funny how things that bring the most painful memories can be the most comforting as well. He escorted me to my temporary room. I figured I might as well make myself at home. The storm was going to last a few more days. I disapproved of having taken advantage of this man. Despite his somewhat welcoming hospitality, at least I was at ease without fear of being booted out. I had an inkling he knew who I really was. If he did, he hadn't let on to anything regarding it. I suppose it didn't matter. I had to plan my next move. I drew from my satchel a map of the land, various X's strewn about, marking locations I'd been to, and essentially destroyed. I regarded it carefully, but nothing out of the ordinary was visible to my eye, only a pattern of dots that circled around the outside of the land. I was frustrated. What reason was there for such a wild chase? Their only goal was to capture and return, right? A knock at the door of my room shook me from my daze. I quickly put away the map and swung open the oaken barrier. The owner stood outside, a cup of bitter coffee in his hands. He gestured to the stairs, allowing me to pass into the kitchen. During the past half hour I spent staring into the void of my map. He had prepared a marvelous feast. Set out before me now, a large turkey, buttered corn, apple pie, bread and butter. It was like Thanksgiving all over again. I could feel myself yearning for the delights. He tapped my shoulder to get my attention and stated I could only eat on one condition. Explained myself entirely, why I had left paradise behind. I instantly stood frozen, stunned. He obviously knew my name already. It was plastered all over the news, after all. I shouldn't have been so surprised. Most who sheltered me asked the same. Solemnly, I agreed. I was starving and it couldn't be helped, not even for 5 minutes. I sat down and piled as much as I could onto my plate, scarfing it down. All the while, the owner of this run-down shack glanced at me, as if I were a work of art. I only had the courage to speak of the events leading up to my leave once I had a full stomach. The last president had somehow disappeared from the capital one day, and shortly after I was appointed leader, despite my lack of actual experience. With only a goal of assisting the country, I did my best to help the people, But that damn cabinet did nothing I told them to. They claimed they had a better idea of what the common people wanted. Having years of experience over me, I went with it. But they passed laws without my consent, overruled my suggestions and orders, filled their guts and wallets with whatever they could. I was blind for so long, but finally had my eyes opened. I had to try something against them. Gunshots sounded off before I could give speech, scattering the people and getting security to haul me away. Several more attempts to calm the people were made, but they ended the same. It was only through eavesdropping during congressional did I understand why I had been chosen as a scapegoat. To be an icon the world over would blame for the downfalls. I needed help, so I fled in search of an army to tear down the government. Apparently the cabinet doesn't take kindly to runaways. I became quiet once more, letting silence become the conversation. The man across the table paused to think. But when he opened his mouth to respond, I caught wind of a sound I feared most. Barking. They weren't far behind. They had caught up so quickly. How? Without warning, the man gripped my collar and dragged me to the basement. It was extremely dark, and as I fumbled for the light switch, I heard a gun click. Would he turn on me now? Shoot me dead? Turn me into the authorities? I managed to hit the light switch. My eyes became wide as dinner plates as I took in what surrounded me. An entire bunker full of ammo, weapons, and emergency survival supplies were laid out on the shelves. He seemed very well prepared for this type of situation. He motioned to the guns that I should arm myself as well. I hardly knew how to shoot, but I was grateful for the defenses nonetheless. I selected my weapons with haste and turned to face him. "You'll be happy to know I'm on your side," he stated boldly. I smiled. How I hadn't recognized him before, I'll never know. "Thank you, Mr. President." Alright, so that was Hunt by Archiva Delta. Fantastic story there. Thank you guys so much for allowing your stories to be read. If you who are watching this video want your story to be read, all you have to do is put it into our folder and we will get straight to it. But better still, leave a comment about your story and we will go read it. As long as you're a member of the group. Okay, so don't forget to join the Writer Gang. And if you come from outside, or even if you come from inside, please like, share, and subscribe, because that is how the channel grows. That is how all our writers get to grow, because the more people that watch, the better we are. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all for the next one.